state those points. I asked a very simple question.
Not true,
do you not trust the career officials at the FBI
ICE is lying. And we're sitting here having a discussion like follow a reasonable discussion.
But do you not trust the officials at the FBI? I'm not talking about the director. I'm talking about the career.
It doesn't matter. I'm talking about everyone.
It does matter, Lee.
It doesn't.
It does matter. So you think the career officials at the FBI don't care about their oath to the Constitution?
Let's just let the FBI do. And I'm like,
Second, Abby, to make a very quick decision. It's not a methodical process. I'll give you a prime example. They teach a lot of law enforcement officials, federal and local and state. If somebody, I don't know, to your point, what that officer saw or felt. I don't know if he saw her moving her hands and believed maybe she was grabbing a gun. I don't know, which is why an investigator...
Force the law. If I don't like how much the IRS is charging me in taxes, I don't drive my car into the Treasury Department and try to run somebody over. I call.
As she starts to turn, she's shot in the face. So, no, I think I'm taking crazy pills if we're going to talk about an ongoing investigation when the President of the United States is already calling her a domestic terrorist. Yeah. There's no investigation there. She's already been labeled a about training.
To ICE, get the fuck out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here.
Guys, here's the first panel that I saw talking about the shooting of the woman in Minneapolis by the ICE agent, and totally on brand. Scott Jennings, hate the face, and Shermichael, another hate the face, provide cover. And what I think is interesting and important to know is that, is there ever any of these kind of controversial police shootings that we all can agree is illegal and against the law? But we'll talk about it on the other side. I'll let the panel do their thing.
Outrage in Minneapolis. Protests erupting tonight after an ICE agent shot and killed a woman in her car. Whether the shooting was justified is very much the question here. The Trump administration says it's clear that the woman was trying to kill the officer by running him over with her car, going so far as to call her a domestic terrorist. Now, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey argues that it wasn't self-defense. And to be clear, there is still a lot that we don't know about this incident, including what happened in those minutes leading up to it. But we want to play different angles of this shooting for you. And I want to warn you, what you're going to watch here is disturbing video. And here is a second angle of the same shooting from a higher vantage point. Watch. Now, the mayor didn't hold back in his message to the Trump administration.
They are already trying to spin this as an action of self-defense. Having seen the video of myself, I want to tell everybody directly, that is bullshit. To ICE, get the fuck out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here. Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite.
Kristi Noem was unmoved by that remark from the mayor. Listen.
Mayor Frey called the claims of self-defense BS. How do you respond to that? I say that he doesn't know what he's talking about. It's very clear that this individual was harassing and impeding law enforcement operations. Our officer followed his training, did exactly what he's been taught to do in that situation, and took actions to defend himself.
CNN law enforcement analyst and former Secret Service agent Jonathan Wackrow joins us in our fifth seat. Jonathan,
before he gets into the technical side of it, I just think it's important to note how much the administration just lied day one, hours after the shooting. They just made up stuff about what actually happened or what was the available information. But to, pass judgment in the media, to pass judgment on a situation before a full investigation was made, shows you the type of administration that we're dealing with. In normal administrations, they would put some type of statement out, let's investigate, let's find out what happened, and then we will make a determination. To just say that this woman was trying to run people over, it's just not accurate with what we saw, and most of what they put out, the Trump administration put out yesterday, it just was not accurate at all.
A lot going on here. I want to play for you one more thing. This is a eyewitness, Emily Heller, who walked outside of her house just as this was unfolding. She spoke to Aaron Burnett earlier, and this is what she had to say about what happened in those critical moments just before a lot of these videos began.
They were telling her to leave. They were telling her to move, and then all of a sudden they were seemed like they were trying to get her. So they were telling her to move, and then in a split second they were saying they were trying to get her out of the car. So it was like she was trying to move once they were trying to get in her car. She was of course she wanted to leave at that point. They were extremely aggressive.
I want to stop right here for a second. It's interesting to me when law enforcement is engaging with the people. A lot of times, especially when you have multiple law enforcement officers, they are spitting out commands and spitting out orders, and sometimes those orders are contradictory to what another officer is telling a person. A person is saying to move, and another person is saying to get out. What do you in that moment? What do you follow? And it's not really a blame to law enforcement. I do feel like there should be a consistent message. If you want somebody to get down, get down. You want somebody to get up, get up. It should be the same message from everyone, which means that it probably needs to be better communication. And I think that her description of the scene shows that the woman that got shot was getting multiple conflicting commands, from these officers.
So taking all of that, what do you see here as what we need to investigate in order to determine what happens next, who's culpable, and whether this was justified?
Well, I think you have to look at it through two lenses. One, it's the law, and look at it from, was this a legal shooting? Was this deemed appropriate under the policies and procedures of DHS for that agent to discharge his firearm and shoot this individual? That's one side of it. And then you have to look at it, was it reasonable? You have to look at it like, could this have been avoided some other way? And I think that the investigation that hopefully will be ongoing soon will start revealing, some of these things that we just don't know right now. When you think about it from the law, there's this standard. It's the reasonableness standard. And basically it states that, the way that this is going to be judged isn't in hindsight, but it is from the perspective of the officer or agent at the moment that they discharged their firearm. Did they feel that their life was in danger? Wasn't it reasonable based upon the totality of the circumstances at that moment? The challenge for all of us at this table is we do not have the perspective and the vision that that agent had at that moment. What did they see? We can understand that they may feel that intent was implied by the car moving forward, that their life was in danger. But was there any other circumstances that made that individual pull the trigger? No one knows that right now. And that needs to come out during the investigation. Now, the flip side of it, which is what we've been speaking about most of today, was could something else have been done? Could this officer have just stepped out of the way? Could he not have fired his weapon?
Yeah.
They have the license plate, go get this person afterwards. I think that is worth debate as well. And I can just say one final point. Anybody sitting at this table, I've actually been in that position. I have been on the bumper of a car as it was moving with my weapon drawn out, making that split second decision, in milliseconds actually, whether or not to shoot that person in the car, who I felt at the time was a threat. Now, in that instance, I did not. But again, all of this just shows how dynamic these situations are for our law enforcement partners around the country that are faced with threats every single day.
All right, before we go on, one of the things to notice in the video is that the only officer that pulled his firearm was an officer that shot. The other officers, and it was at least 4 officers, none of them drew their weapons. None of them fired into the vehicle. So, and they all were close enough interacting, with the vehicle that if there was a major amount of threat, and we see this a lot with, some police shootings where you'll see it's a bunch of police officers and all of them, shoot or large amount of them shoot, they fire their weapon. Because a lot of times a person is a clear threat. But in this situation, only one officer fired his weapon, unholstered his weapon, fired his weapon, and the other 3 did not. Which means that in a similar scenario, the other 3 officers showed that lethal force was not needed in that particular situation.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Honestly, I think what you just said is incredibly reasonable for a normal law enforcement operation. Mm-hmm. What we are talking about here is not incredibly reasonable. One of the things Kristi Noem said was that the officer was following his training. One of the things we know about these ICE officers is their training is so limited. Their expectations of service is so limited. They are hiring basically anyone, giving them tons of money, and they're not prepared for these jobs. They don't have the training you had when you could make a split-second decision. We know that. We know how fast they're hiring, that they have 10x their budget. So this man was not prepared, or if he was, this is a woman in a minivan with her spouse, and like she's in a Honda Galaxy. She was moments before waving people to go around her car. As the witness was saying, she was standing on her front porch and they were like, leave, get out of here. And she was like, okay. She let 2 cars go in front of her. Mm-hmm. Then the guy came right up to her car and said, get the fuck out. These are people that are beating people on the street, people who are assaulting people in custody, who are killing people and have killed people before. She's reasonable to think, I'm going to get out of here. And you can see her car back up. You can see the wheel turn. And then as she starts to turn, she's shot in the face. So, no, I think I'm taking crazy pills if we're going to talk about an ongoing investigation when the president of the United States is already calling her a domestic terrorist. Yeah. There's no investigation there. She's already been labeled a terrorist.
About training, the academy training for ICE officers was shortened to 47 days, apparently picked because Trump is the 47th president. Training.
You see how ridiculous we are as a country right now. So the ICE training was scaled down to 47 days in honor of the 47th president. These are the people who are out on the street, and we're making decisions about their training based on the number of the president. Come on. What are we doing? That's just crazy.
Matters a lot in these high stakes moments. Yeah. And now that ICE officers are fanning out across the country to the tune of thousands, training matters even more because they're engaging directly with the public. And we're seeing things like this happen. I mean, this is such a tragedy. It's such a tragedy. And I have to wonder, I mean, Obama was able to deport millions of people in this country. And I don't recall ever seeing things like that unfolding in suburban neighborhoods across the country. And you have to wonder why.
Look, Jonathan and I were talking about the training process for federal law enforcement. I own 2 firearms companies. I've done a lot of work with law enforcement at every level, particularly around firearms training. And look, training does matter. I'm not going to negate that fact. But I think for the viewing public who may not necessarily be used to seeing circumstances such as this, you do have a very, very split second, Abby, to make a very quick decision. It's not a methodical process. I'll give you a prime example. They teach a lot of law enforcement officials, federal and local and state, if someone has a knife and they're 20 feet away from you, where most people say, well, why would the officer shoot someone with a knife and that distance is so great? Right. They didn't have to shoot. They could have gotten away or used some other mechanism to subdue them. Well, a person can close a 20-foot gap in less than 10 seconds. And so the point that I'm trying to make by citing that example is to say, I don't know.
You're actually not making a point. And that example you gave was a terrible example. Person has a firearm, and a person has a knife, and they're 20 feet away. If that person attempts to come towards you, you can simply back up and create more distance. Especially if your weapon is drawn, if your firearm is drawn, that person has a knife, you could back up and create more distance. There's no 10 seconds is a long time. You could run down the street in 10 seconds, but 10 seconds is more enough time to utilize your firearm multiple times. You can probably shoot somebody, maybe 15 times in 10 seconds if you are proficient with your firearm. The point I'm saying is that's a silly argument, that you would shoot somebody that's 20 feet away when you can just back up and create more distance and de-escalate.
To your point, what that officer saw or felt, I don't know if he saw her moving her hands and believed maybe she was grabbing a gun. I don't know, which is why an investigation, a very thorough one, needs to proceed forward before anyone can really draw any conclusions about what that officer saw in that moment.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I'm not sure that the Trump administration actually understands that there needs to be an investigation. You had Kristi Noem on the border with her cowboy hat saying right away that it was an act of domestic terrorism, and not only that, blaming the woman when she didn't even have the facts. Then you had Donald Trump go out and, instead of acting like a president, the way the president should act, also put blame on the woman. And so if we were in a normal circumstance with a normal president, with a normal cabinet secretary, and you know this from your time at the Secret Service, as we worked in law enforcement agencies, you have the cabinet secretary and the president of the United States call for a thorough investigation, independent one from the inspector general. You have the FBI in that situation. Do a thorough investigation with the U.S. Attorney's Office and the Civil Rights Division to figure out what exactly happened. But instead, there is a blame game. And I actually don't agree that there should be a blame game with state officials either. I think that both sides need to make sure that we are getting the facts first, and then we can go from there. But yes, I do think this entire incident raises questions about how does a mom of a 6-year-old child who is now an orphan, how does that person get shot by our local law enforcement, and the administration somehow rush to put blame on the woman who died?
I mean, so maybe.
Before I let dumbass Michael speak again, I kind of don't really agree with what she's saying, only because there's, the statements from the mayor is not in a vacuum. So the mayor made those statements after Trump and Kristi Noem and the other lady, McLaughlin, after they made these statements. So there was nothing that the mayor really could. The mayor couldn't come out and say, let's have a. I mean, I guess the mayor could have, but I mean, at that moment when someone's already saying that this person is a domestic terrorist, this the ICE officer was in self-defense, and then you can't really give a soft response to that. So it may have not been the most effective way of articulating his frustration. But I think that it's not in a vacuum. It didn't just come out of nowhere. This was in response to a lot of the nonsense that was already being said by the Trump administration.
If you do want to, I guess, characterize the president's statements one particular way, and Chris, I believe the FBI has come out and stated that they are going to investigate this. And so I want to respect and trust that the bureaucrats at the FBI with the state officials and their investigative units will look into this. And at some point we will get a conclusion.
I want to invest and trust in that too, sure, Michael. But you know what? That's not reality. This woman
why isn't? Do you not trust the FBI?
I do not trust our current FBI. No, I do not. They are absolutely.
I'm not talking about the director. I'm talking about the career.
It doesn't matter. I'm talking about everyone.
It does matter, Lee.
It doesn't.
It does matter. So you think the career officials at the FBI don't care about their oath to the Constitution?
Listen, let's just let the.
Shut up, Shermichael. Trump doesn't believe that career FBI officials can be unbiased. That's why they started purging from the FBI, started getting rid of people from the FBI based on their political affiliation. And those people were career-long FBI folks who the Trump administration just got rid of. So don't come here, pearl clutching because we don't have confidence in, the federal government as a whole. But the FBI with Kash Patel and them only installing loyalists and only keeping loyalists. So there is no unbiased there's no unbiased people in the office anymore. Yeah, of course we don't think that there is going to be a fair investigation, and to think that an investigation cannot be tainted or shut down or just disregarded or just not even put the proper resources into any of those things can be done for the Trump administration to save face. Now, you think that they, after all of these statements, you think that they are going to trot somebody out there and say that we were wrong or this was wrong? It's not happening. You're living in a dream world.
FBI, and I'm like, the president of the United States put out a truth that said she was a domestic terrorist who tried to run him over, and he was fighting for his life in the hospital.
I heard you state those points. I asked a very simple question.
Not true,
Do you
though.
not trust
He's
the career
lying.
officials
DHS
at
is
the
lying.
FBI
ICE
to
is
do their
lying.
job
And
well?
we're sitting here having a discussion like follow a reasonable discussion.
But do you not trust the officials at the FBI to do their job well?
Does it not taint?
I do.
Sure, Michael, does it not taint the possibility of there being a fair, thorough investigation when the president has already prejudged it as a domestic terrorism organization? The DHS secretary has already determined that the officer was justified and that this person was an agitator who essentially, she was saying, deserved to be killed. How does that not taint people's confidence at the very least?
Sure,
that there's
maybe
going to be
it
a fair
does
investigation?
taint people's confidence, and that's a different discussion.
It's the discussion that we're having now.
Career officials at the FBI.
Well,
I have a lot of confidence in the career officials in Minnesota to do a good job.
Lee is one of those
to
Americans who
investigate
doesn't
this.
believe that is
I disagree with you on that.
I
disagree with you
I just
on
left
that.
there 1 year ago, and I actually do have a lot of confidence in the career
So do I.
investigators of the FBI, and they are very good people who understand how to do this. What I don't have confidence in is where does that information go from there, and whether those people will be silenced. And what I have heard from FBI agents and prosecutors within the Department of Justice is when they investigate something and it does not result in what the president or the FBI director or the attorney general want, then they somehow get involved and try to change the outcome of whatever that investigation is. And that is my problem.
Okay.
So
He knows
I
that.
agree with you, Jonathan. I think there's some details we don't know yet, and we'll have to learn more about it. What strikes me is, first of all, it's extremely sad and unfortunate that someone died. I mean, the political fighting and disagreements aside, it's terrible. You don't want people to die in law enforcement situations or otherwise. But it strikes me that we are undergoing an epidemic of political vigilantism right now. Why are people showing up in vehicles, in convoys, not just in Minneapolis, but all over the country in an effort to obstruct lawful federal law enforcement activities? This is not an isolated incident. We have had hundreds of car rammings against ICE agents all over the country. According to DHS, this lady in this car today, along with other vehicles, had been tracking ICE agents around. Why are people believing that they can drive their car into a federal law enforcement situation and that is an appropriate thing to do? I understand they don't like the fact that these agents are enforcing existing immigration law, but that's not how we change laws in this country. If you don't like a law, you talk to the politicians. You don't drive your car into the middle of a building or a law enforcement situation that's being occupied by the people who are simply there to enforce the law. If I don't like how much the IRS is charging me in taxes, I don't drive my car into the Treasury Department and try to run somebody over. I call my congressman.
That's not what you're doing.
Vigilantism is being encouraged by Democratic officials like the Lieutenant Governor of Minnesota, Peggy Flanagan, who earlier this year told people to, quote, put your bodies on the line, and Tim Walz calling these guys Gestapo all year. What do you think happens when you radicalize a base of people about this?
It does strike me, Scott. I actually don't know that she was doing any of the things that you suggested. We don't know anything about what she was doing. I mean, do you know as a fact?
DHS has said out loud today that she had been tracking around ICE agents all day long. That is part of the report.
She's following ICE
I think
agents.
that I've read everything there is to read about this woman so far. And we have very little information about what exactly she was doing. She lives in that neighborhood, it seems. But we don't know that she was a part of a convoy. We don't know that she was trying to do anything particularly with ICE agents. We know her wife was outside of the vehicle recording. But again, we were talking about jumping to conclusions.
You think they may have just accidentally wandered in there?
No, she lives there. That's
so your position is that
she lives in that neighborhood.
You say the federal government is lying about them following ICE agents around?
All I'm saying is that we don't know.
That's the point of an investigation.
And that's the point, exactly.
And I have no problem with an investigation.
When did it become illegal to follow ICE agents around?
It's illegal to engage in obstruction of federal law enforcement. Is it not? Is it a felony?
But they're not impeding.
It is a felony.
She was filming, right? She's filming them because ICE agents have been known to kill people, because people are disappearing in custody, because we're missing 1,200 people in Alexander Alcatraz.
This is the political vigilantism.
This is not political vigilantism.
You're encouraging people to interfere
I am
with
not
federal law
encouraging people.
enforcement.
I'm saying that
And
we need to
people
get it
are
on
getting
tape
killed
because the
because of it.
DHS is lying, because ICE is lying, and because people are getting hurt
I think that
and they're
there is
disappearing.
obviously
Amnesty International just did an entire thing on ICE.
But hold on,
Amnesty International. That's not me being a Democrat.
There's a big difference between recording law enforcement, which you can do, and impeding law enforcement. And knowing the difference is going to be extremely important in this case, as it has been in every other case where this has come up. But I'm going to hit pause on this. We're going to continue.
I heard you say.
What's crazy is now there's this no, I'm not gonna say now, but you're able to record law enforcement. They are our civil servants. We pay their salary. We are able to record what they're doing, especially ICE that has some questionable tactics. I mean, it's not in a vacuum. It's not just because people are just bored and they don't have nothing to do. I mean, ICE has some questionable tactics. So it is legal to record the police doing their job. Now, police and people like Scott will blur the line so much to say that recording is obstructing. It is not. It is not. Recording is not impeding. It is not. You can record the police doing their job, but what the police sometimes when they're not doing their jobs properly or professionally, or they're not staying within the bounds of the law, now they don't want their actions recorded. And the ICE agents, by and large, do not have to wear a body cam. So now there is no recording of these interactions. All it is the ICE's word versus another person. So that's the reason why people are bringing, cameras and they're recording these interactions, because ICE purposefully does not, mandate their officers to wear body cams. And when you think about that, when's the last time you seen a police officer without a body cam? It's probably far in between that you would see a police officer without a body cam, because the body cam is what actually tells the story. It lets you know exactly what happened. The camera is unbiased, and it speaks volumes that ICE does not allow or encourage or make it mandatory for their officers to wear body cams. What are they trying to hide? They're already lying, and we can't. It becomes extremely difficult to combat those lies, or even prove that those lies are lies, because there's no footage. So I just wanted to share this, this panel with you guys. I think it's important to have these conversations, because as Black people, we know how these types of incidents are going to end. I mean, most likely it's going to end with this police officer being not being charged, having no consequences, and a lady is just dead, and that's just that. It's unfortunate, but we as Black people have seen this a million times, and we empathize with the family of the victim. We hope that they get justice, but we almost know how this is going to end. So don't forget to subscribe. It helps a lot with the channel. Don't forget to like these videos. Don't forget to comment on these videos. Share them if you can. Until the next time, if you don't have a political perspective, then I'm jacking it all up. But y'all know what I'm saying. Peace.